Well, I'm sure you know that there are some voices you should not ignore. And this is another one, the active and passive voice. Another voice you shouldn't ignore is that of Mr. Rose, especially since he is the narrator here. What does a voice denote? Voice is the form a verb takes to show whether the subject of the verb performs or receives the action. There are two types, active and passive. What is the active voice used for? The active voice is used to show that the subject of the sentence is performing or causing the action on the object, as in transferring the action onto the object. Let's take this example. James threw the ball to Janet. Now we see here James is the subject, threw the verb, and the object is the ball. So James is transferring the action onto the ball. In the next sentence, my mother baked a delicious cake. My mother is the subject, baked is the verb, and the object, the delicious cake. What is the passive voice now? A passive voice is used when the object or the recipient of the action becomes the subject. Now we look at the earlier sentences we had used. James threw the ball to Janet. That was earlier, the active voice. What does it become now in the passive voice? The ball was thrown by James. So the doer of the action now becomes the object, and the earlier object of the ball in the active now becomes the subject in the passive. Similarly with the second sentence, my mother baked a delicious cake. Remember, that was the active. Over here we have a delicious cake was baked by my mother. Now we need to remember an important thing, that the passive voice requires a double verb, or what we call an auxiliary form of the verb, to be, and the past participle. Now the past participle of verbs normally end with en or ed or t. So we have spoken, given as past participles, demanded, decided with the ed. And with the t we have leapt, cleansed, dreamt, swept, ending with t. Now let's look at the rules that have to be followed when changing the voice. The first thing, if there is a transitive verb which has two objects, any of the two objects may become the subject in the passive voice. Now let's look at the examples. Mary taught Ravi French, as in French is not Ravi's surname, but the language French. We have two objects over here, Ravi and French. So the first passive form we can use is Ravi was taught French by Mary. Or we can also say French was taught to Ravi by Mary. The second rule: when a prepositional verb is changed from the active to passive voice, the preposition should not be dropped. Look at the example. They laughed at the joker. Notice the preposition marked in red. When we convert this to the passive voice, we say the joker was laughed at by them. We don't say the joker was laughed by them. So you retain the preposition at. The third rule: to change auxiliary verbs from active to passive, we have to add be along with the past participle of the verb. Reese can do the work. In the passive form, it becomes the work can be done by Reese. Now notice the be added over there and done being the past participle of the verb do. To change imperative sentences from active to passive, let be is used if the sentence is to remain imperative. Otherwise, should be is used. Look at the active voice. Open the door. In the passive, it becomes let the door be opened. If it's a non-imperative, then we say the door should be opened. Now I've given you a number of sentences along with their tenses here. We'll quickly go through it because I think you're quite familiar with most of them. In the simple present active, he throws the ball. The passive becomes the ball is thrown by him. In the present continuous, the active is she is reading a book. The passive becomes a book is being read by her. In the present perfect, I have broken the window. The passive becomes the window has been broken by me. The present perfect continuous, he has been giving his books away. The passive becomes his books have been being given away. The past tenses. He gave her a gift. In the simple past, it becomes a gift was given to her by him. The past continuous, she was counting the money, becomes the money was being counted by her. In the past perfect, they had found the missing necklace. In the passive, it becomes the missing necklace had been found by them. The past perfect continuous, he had been spending the money, becomes the money had been being spent by him. Now just pay attention. This present perfect continuous and past perfect continuous in the passive voice is rarely used. In fact, it's looked down upon by most grammarians. But I'm just showing you the tense. It is never to be because that form is not used at all. Now let's look at the future tenses. The simple future, I will hold this bag. The passive becomes this bag will be held by me. Future continuous, he will be speaking to her tomorrow. The passive, she will be spoken to by him tomorrow. The future perfect, I shall have broken his record by 2025. The passive, his record will have been broken by me by 2025. The future perfect continuous, this year they will have been playing football on that field for 10 years. Now the weird one, the passive. This year, football will have been being played on that field for 10 years. Well, that's all we have now. Let's hope you have grasped whatever I was saying, and I hope it will help you when you're trying to solve the sentences or the transformation in your English language paper. And that's it. Hope you found your voice because I am losing mine and you shouldn't be tense anymore. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.